The Rates and Lanes podcast. I'm your host, Rico Muhammad. I will be joined here shortly by my co-host, Mr. Chuck Snow. And tonight we have special guests joining us again. We had a little technical difficulty the last time that we attempted to bring him on, but Mr. Ray Veenenan, he works with the Rouse Trucking Group up in Canada. He's the I forget his direct title, but he's going to help us talk about the used trucking market. So if you got questions about used trucks, he may be able to save us and give us a couple of tips on how to negotiate, and different things to look for. But just to kind of give us a glimpse into if the volatility is starting to calm down a little bit in the used truck market, and even maybe tell us about some new trucks that may be coming down the line as well, depending upon what his dealership may or may not have available. But he's a guy that definitely has his pulse of the industry. So we thank him for coming on and joining us to show us a couple of different things about what's going on in the industry. But right now, as we normally always do, I'm going to try to jump in here and share my screen, and we're going to go to the DAT trend lines report. And as we can see, diesel fuel is steadily having an incremental decline. We're going down to 1 point. It dropped last week by 1.6 percentage points, showing that the national average price of diesel fuel checks in right at $4.91 per gallon nationwide. Increased truckload capacity leads to lower spot rates. So we're looking at the week of August 8th through the 14th. Truckload capacity continues to loosen on the spot market last week. The diesel prices also have tapered off a bit from their all-time highs, removing some and adding pressure to truckload rates. As a result, national average truck spot market rates of all major types have fallen since last week. So we're going to take a look and see how they were performing on each segment type, starting out with the dry van market. And looking up in that upper northeastern corridor, we're showing that the average outbound spot market rate for dry vans checks in at $2.44 per mile. Moving down to the mid-Atlantic and southeastern states, we're showing an average outbound rate of $2.80 per mile. Coming out of the Midwest, we're showing an average outbound rate for dry vans at $2.78. Dropping down to the South Central region, we're showing an average outbound rate of $2.74. And coming out of the West Coast, we're showing an average outbound rate of $2.63. Hopping over to the flatbed portion of the report. Coming out of that upper northeastern corridor, we're showing an average outbound rate of $3.36 per mile. Dropping down to the mid-Atlantic and southeastern region, we're showing an average outbound rate of $3.77. Moving up into the Midwest, we're showing an average outbound rate checking in at $3.64. Coming out of that South Central region of the United States, $3.46 per mile on average for flatbeds. And wrapping up, coming out of the West Coast, we're showing an average outbound rate of $2.97. Shifting gears, jumping over to the reefer portion of the report. Coming out of the Northeast, we're showing an average outbound rate of $2.62 for temperature controlled. Moving down to the mid-Atlantic and southeastern states, we're showing an average outbound rate of $3.08. Coming out of the Midwest, we're showing that average outbound rate checks in at $3.14. Coming out of the South Central region, showing an average outbound rate of $3.16 for reefers. And wrapping up, coming out of the West Coast, we're showing an average outbound rate of $3.10 per mile. And with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, let me drop down and we can turn off the screen sharing, and let me welcome my co-host to the show, Mr. Chuck Snow. Good evening, Chuck. How are you?
We're doing well. How are you, Rico?
I cannot complain. I tell you, it's been an interesting week, but I'm definitely glad to see diesel fuel prices coming down. Looks like the capacity issue is picking up, and that's hurting spot market rates. But all in all, it's been good on this end.
Well, you know what? When diesel prices are high, usually spot prices are high with it. You know, they goes hand in hand as a rule.
Right, right. But that's not necessarily the case this time around.
No, and you know what? It doesn't always when they're sky high. It doesn't always it's not always in lockstep with the contract rates. So it's you even with the contract rates where you're getting your fair fuel surcharge, it doesn't cover really quick, horrendous spikes in fuel costs that we've seen in the last 6 months or so.
So I want to let everyone know. I want to welcome. I'm glad that Ray gave us a rain check and came back to make it. Let us try to make it up to him, and he made it up to us to come back on and talk about the used trucking market. So I don't want to keep Ray hanging on too long. He was gracious enough with his time to come back and join us again. We had a little glitch the last time we tried to get him on, but without any further ado, let's welcome the VP of Remarketing for Rouse Trucking Centers of Canada, Mr. Ray Veenenan. Ray, I wish I had some applause I could play for you.
There.
Thanks very much, guys. Good to be here again.
Always great to have you. I love having you on because what the stuff you say has such impact into other areas of the economy. When you start saying that you got a yard full of trucks and no customers, I think the economy's in real trouble.
Yeah, that's true. It does seem to follow suit for sure.
Before we jump too far into it, though, gentlemen, I want to let the audience know that if you have a question or if you would like to join us, I'm going to drop a link in the chat here in a few minutes if you want to join us via video. But if you got a question, you can always type it and type it into the chat, whichever. If you're looking at us on, the only one that doesn't work on is Instagram. If you try to type it into Instagram, we won't be able to see it. But if you're on Facebook or if you're on YouTube and you type it into the chat, it should migrate over here and we'll be able to see your question. And if you'd like to join us, I'm going to put like I said, I'm going to drop a link over in the chat box here in a few minutes. And if you would like to join us via video, we welcome you up in the board. There's no such thing as a dumb question, and we welcome all your questions and interactions here on the Rates and Lanes podcast. All right, gentlemen, I got that little bit of housekeeping out of the way. Ray, tell us a little bit, maybe to kind of start us off, maybe give us a little bit of an update as to how things are looking as far as, I guess we'll start off with the new OEM market and we'll transition over into used trucking market. What's the inventory starting to look like, and how are things coming along in both of those different segments?
Yeah, absolutely, Rico. I sit on a call during the week. I'm on about 4 calls specifically about that with our teams here in Canada. And we don't only talk about our inventory; we talk about other OEMs and what we hear on the street. And I think we're all still pretty much in the same situation. They're still calling for parts shortages and staffing shortages. So inventory still is at a premium. It's very difficult. Everything that we have so far is pre-sold. So as soon as it hits the ground, it's being delivered. I'm hearing very similar to that with other OEMs as well. For us right now, still all of our 2023 allocation is pretty much sold. We have some models where there are some opportunities still remaining, but at this point, everything's pre-sold. Having said that, I think, I know with COVID, this is a little bit different than previous years, but we have learned once stuff becomes a little bit more accessible and more available, other people seem to cancel orders or move or buy different trucks or decide the demand isn't as necessary as they thought. Some of this stuff I think really is panic purchasing as well. But the proof is yet to be in the pudding. Once we start seeing these trucks being delivered, then we'll see how it goes. So that's the new truck portion of your question. And as far as the used truck, well, here in Canada, we're still pretty strong with inventory demand, meaning customers are buying just about everything we put on the lot. We're pretty fortunate that way, and our customers have been pretty fortunate that we've been able to really supply them with a fairly good amount of trucks. Here at Rush Canada, we are one of the largest private lease and rental fleets with Ideal Lease. So we pull quite a few trucks out of our lease and rental fleet as they get replaced and as we upgrade them. So there's quite a demand for those still. A little bit different in the US. Rico and Chuck right now, prices are falling there on used trucks a little bit. Inventory is definitely building. If you read the trade magazines, that I don't read them as thoroughly as I like to every day, but certainly at a glance, I'm seeing that prices are dropping. We're getting back to see promotions on trucks now as well, which you wouldn't have seen in the past, or which we saw much earlier in the past, but haven't seen in the last 2 years. But now there's certainly promotions going on, incentives to buy.
So is it safe to say that there's probably not a whole lot of negotiating one could probably achieve in this type of market?
Yeah, I think certainly here in Canada, it's still really a seller's market. We've been really good at trying to, I would say, maintain our prices as far as not gouging the customer. We're pretty cognizant that those customers are going to come back to us in a year or two when they want to trade. So we want to keep them in business, and everybody's got to make a little bit of money and everybody's got to do well. But yeah, to answer your question, it's still definitely a seller's market here in Canada.
Yeah, you know what? You guys have been great because we've done business together, and there definitely has never been any gouging. And the one thing I have to say that I was really amazed that the last truck that I bought from you came with warranty, and they've been excellent on the warranty.
Oh, that's good to hear.
Yeah, kudos to you and your team, Ray. That was, we bought the truck, I wasn't expecting warranty, and it's come in handy a few times.
Well, it's unfortunate that you had to use it, but it's fortunate that it was there for you.
Yeah. The first time we did business together with when we got back together, we reintroduced about 3 years ago, I guess. I had an owner operator that really needed a new truck, and I sent him to you. And he bought a truck and he bought warranty with it, and price of the truck was very good. And lo and behold, he needed a lot of work, and that warranty covered it. No questions asked.
Oh, that's good. He was the fellow that had the old Mac, I think, at one time.
Yes. Yeah. It had, I think we figured it had 3.5 million miles.
Wow.
Woo.
Yeah. It was a 96 that had ran 150,000 miles a year.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. I don't think there's a truck built today, I don't care what brand, you're going to be able to log that many miles on.
So Ray, I kind of got a thing that popped in my mind. I think it might be a good little exercise for us to do here on the while we have you here. Truck buying process. Say if we got a gentleman that's out there, and we'll kind of try to role play this a little bit. A gentleman wants to come in. He's got a truck already, but he is it better for him to be able to trade a truck in, or would he be in a better position to attempt to try to sell his truck before he comes in to look to buy a new truck?
Sure.
Of course, he may be able to make a little bit more money, but he may be under a time constraint or a crunch, and he just wants to kind of get on with the getting on. And so help educate us a little bit for someone that might be in that scenario.
Sure. I think, Rico, it really depends on, one, the truck that the gentleman has and what position he's in financially as well. Typically, it's interesting. Guys that have trucks themselves are in the business and have a very strong network can generally sell the truck themselves for more money than I can as a dealer. I don't know why that is, but that just seems to happen. People trust the end user. Now, keep in mind, I see a lot of guys, and I don't get it. I was out with a fella this afternoon. people spend a lot of money for these trucks, 150,000, 200,000, 70,000. I mean, if you're buying anything and you're spending 50 grand and up, 20 grand and up, it's a lot of money to me. And people don't really maintain them the way they should. Why I'm saying that is, in this case that you're asking me about, people on the road see the truck, recognize the truck. They know if you've maintained it over the years or not. If you haven't, they're not going to buy it from you. So probably your best bet is to trade it in and get what you can, because it is your calling card. People know how you look after it. They know if you clean it. You'd be shocked at what I get as trade-ins sometimes, Rico. And
No, I
how
wouldn't.
I can't believe they live in them like that.
No,
Yeah.
I wouldn't.
We've all seen it. You know what? I've done road tests. You know what? I've done road tests, and you get in for an owner operator. You go to get into the guy's truck, and you're wondering if he's hauling garbage. And you know what? I've had cases where I say, you know what? This tells me all I want to know about you. I'm not even going to go for a road test. I don't want, because I have a belief that there's a correlation between a truck that is filthy, dirty, and messy inside and crashes.
Oh, there you go.
Well, another thing that I think that people have to realize is that if they are trading in, you have to realize that the dealership is in the business of making money, and you're given that you have to sell it to the dealership at a wholesale price, because they, at the end of the day, they still have to go back, do a little bit of reconditioning or whatever, and still have to put it back out and remarket it. So therefore, you may be able to get a better deal selling it yourself and be able to make a little bit more money to put towards your next truck. But I think that was a worthwhile discussion for us to maybe kind of get into a little bit here on the podcast.
Yeah, it is hard. I mean, when you're on the road every day, it's hard to sell your vehicle because people want to see it. And if they come to us as a dealer, we look at it, give it an appraisal, and you either agree on the money or you don't agree on the money, and then it goes from there. And then it's a pretty slick process. But you're absolutely right, Rico. We have to do, we certainly have to recondition it, because in most cases we want to sell it back out to customers that we have. If we don't enjoy those customers now, it's future customers, and we want to make sure they're buying a good truck.
Right. But you also, I think the advantage of selling to you, if somebody sells a certain truck to you, you quite often, especially in this market, you have a customer in mind, probably when that guy drives in with that truck going, oh my God, Jimmy from Holiday, he's screaming for those things. I could sell that thing in a heartbeat to him, because he needs 3 of those for a new contract he got, because it's got, it's got a long wheelbase or whatever. It's got a short bunk. It's got something, and that it's specific to certain clients, where this guy's got to put in truck paper or Auto Trader or one of those things, and then wait. That's the difference.
Absolutely. And as you said, we do currently have a very long list of customers that are looking for specific trucks. So, it's sad. I put out an inventory list every week to our sales guys, and some of these trucks are not going to be here for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month. But they have the opportunity to pre-sell them. So they're selling them sight unseen.
Sure.
And I can give you an example. I bought 23 trucks last week, and they all sold probably within, all to different people, but they all sold probably within 4 hours.
Wow.
Yeah. And I haven't even got them yet.
That's going to be one for the record books.
Yeah. Yeah. That's really, you're right, Chuck, because that's unheard of. We normally, because we have a pretty good reputation, and
Right.
Our guys are all pretty well known, like you say, it's networking. So they trust those guys, but this is unheard of. This is very unprecedented for us.
Wow. That just tells you the amount of equipment that is needed out there, and the thirst for it, for what is available.
Exactly.
That's a great position. Ray, last week, I just want to get your opinion, and I know that it's probably something you may have been exposed to just because you go to sales conferences and things like that. But Rico had sent me this video on Tesla trucks and electric trucks, and and I saw it, and I'm not a fan because I love the concept of it, but I don't think it's realistic except for in a very limited regional basis, like Anheuser-Busch. I know in Southern California, they're putting 100 miles a day on it's probably a Class 7 truck. So it's a single axle, probably delivering beer to convenience stores and mom and pop stores and grocery stores. And then it spends, it's working for 10 or 12 hours a day and spends the rest of the time being charged. But in a real world, what are you hearing or seeing out there as far as us being able to adapt that technology within the next 5 years or so?
Well, Chuck, it's real, and every OEM is in high gear to make it happen. And we have presented and we've done displays. There's one coming up actually, excuse me, for International Navistar in the next, and I guess within the next early September, I think it is that we're going. Right. But they are all doing it, and the demand is huge. Sure. The cities are looking at it. It's funny though. I don't know how much of it is real and how much of it is politics.
Right.
Because, we did this with compressed CNG, compressed natural gas. We did it with LNG. And now the new flavor is electricity.
And those fizzled out fairly quickly. I mean, I still see some of those CNG trucks and stuff, but I don't hear nowhere near the amount of hoopla or hype behind it as much as you hear about the electrical, and especially the Tesla trucks.
Yeah, well, exactly, and it's not just the Teslas. Like Battle Motors is putting out a really nice electric truck now. Navistar's got Mac has a couple garbage trucks on the road, electric garbage trucks they're testing right now, and
that works. You know what? A garbage truck runs regional, so that's tried and proven. So that'll work because those trucks probably do 100 miles a day.
Yeah, and that's where CNG is really big right now too, right? Is the garbage trucks.
Yeah, that makes I think it makes great sense. But somebody running a 300-mile lane or 500-mile lane, I don't see how this is going to work.
Well, yeah, it'll be interesting. Now they're working hard to put up charging stations everywhere they can, and we're in the process of installing charging stations at a few of our dealerships. So it's coming. It's and Chuck, as you know, my son bought a Tesla, and he had to put a charging station in his garage, and it's certainly the younger group are really intrigued and enthused about it. So
yeah, I know that I hear this all the time. They're the ones that are driving it, and I guess they're the ones that, because of their belief in it, they will continue to. And that's fine for the family car, especially if you're not going very far. But when you're talking about replacing a diesel engine that pulls 80,000, altogether gross weight of 80,000 pounds, how realistic is this?
Well, I don't know if you've seen it on the internet, but it's funny. Someone sent it to me the other day. There was a Tesla pulling a camper trailer on the side of the road with two generators charging up the. It got stuck on the side of the road, and it had two generators charging up the car.
Yeah, so there you go. And I remember my late friend Mike Dorkin, who owned a couple of Teslas, and he was so committed, he actually bought Tesla's stock, and because he was an early adapter. And I remember him telling me that when he tried to drive one of them from Red Deer, Alberta to Florida, he said, as much as he believed in this car, when you got on the US highway system where the average speed is 73 miles an hour in some states, and it was raining out, so you had your windshield wipers on and you had your headlights on, you had the defroster on, you didn't get very far. And that's real life, you know.
Wow.
That's real life, and that's what I wonder with these electric trucks. Yeah, on the open road in South Dakota this time of year, maybe fine, except that air conditioner is going to chew up an awful lot of an awful lot of power.
Yeah, yeah.
Ray, with you, so Navistar, they're working on the technology as well. I'm gonna ask a question. I'm not sure if you may or may not have the answer to it, but at what price point, or do they have a target price point where they may be introducing their electric their model that's into the their opening salvo into the market?
So, and I'm a little bit embarrassed because I just don't recall the numbers that we've done. I actually did quote a couple of them to one of our good customers a few months ago, but I honestly don't recall. I can tell you that I quoted a garbage truck to it was a Battle Motors truck, so formerly Crane Carriers. I
Right.
quoted one of those just recently, and I think the truck itself, without the body, was around $315,000 or $415,000.
This is just the cab and chassis.
Correct.
So I was wondering, would it be comparable to just the regular standard model?
No, it is so far over the scale, Rico, in comparison. Like if you were going to do, we talked about CNG and LNG. If you were going to do CNG, it's probably 10 grand more, maybe 15. But no, this is a lot more,
So
100,000.
if you were to buy that same cabin chassis with your standard, let's say Cummins diesel engine, I'm going to guess around 2.25. Am I right? 200,
Yeah, probably that 2.5. You're almost double if you're buying for that Battle Motors. I
Wow.
don't know if I can pull it up here real quick or not. It could be, but it's a great truck, and if that's what you're looking to do, it's the right thing. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, because they don't usually run the garbage trucks 24 hours a day.
I'm just seeing if I can.
That's actually the perfect place for a battery operated truck to start,
Oh,
anyways.
it really is.
But I would I'd love to talk to somebody in that business to see what their fuel cost is a day on an average truck picking up garbage.
Well,
Yeah,
I know.
I don't know. I know that Elon actually tweeted. I think I shared that tweet with you. They're supposed to start delivering on their trucks the later part of this year. The Tesla trucks
Yeah.
are actually supposed to, and I would probably be interested in seeing how they hold up. Like wait a year and let a couple other people be the guinea pig before I would jump in line or whatever. But I definitely would be interested to see the performance of those trucks and then the maintenance that comes along with it.
So
I think you got to wait longer than a year, Rico. I think you need a 2 to 5 year horizon to really see the problems these things have. Because I think that the first ones, I think they're going to be servicing the hell out of them, and then once they get market share, then they sometimes. Now, I'm not saying Tesla will do that. I don't know. I've heard good things about the company, but I know that other companies out there that manufacture trucks, and I'm not going to say their name on this show, but one of them starts with a V, and I'm not going to say their name. They were really good about service. They were really good about getting a lot of trucks out there. And once they sold too many trucks, a lot more trucks than their service, their dealers that their service departments could handle, they kind of forgot about customers.
So just looking at a straight truck, Chuck, that you mentioned earlier, I think our straight truck in an electric version, I'm ballparking this, okay? Just looking here at some of my stuff. you're close to $300,000 just without the body on
Wow. Okay, and that you know that truck, and what would that truck be just as a cabin chassis?
it.
That
100K,
particular.
probably 100K, maybe
Wow,
120. Yeah.
that's a lot. Yeah.
That's a lot of money. That's a lot of money. So getting back to what we got going on here, to getting back to modern times.
Present times.
I don't
Current
think
times.
I don't think that you guys have this issue so much up there. The thing that I'm getting ready to ask about now, um, when it comes to deleting the DPF systems. Um, if you run across a truck like that, what do you? If someone has already deleted their DPF system off of their trucks, and reselling that truck, how- that's a no go if they're trying to trade that in at any
Well,
kind
it's
of time.
funny, Rico. I had a call, and I haven't had one of these calls in quite a while, but I had a call today with a guy that had a 2016, I think it was, ProStar, that he was very proud to tell me that he had a deleted system and wanted me to buy it from him. And I told him I couldn't unless he wanted to bring it in my shop and we install a new DPF system. So he can sell it, I think, in Edmonton, and I
Yeah.
think he can sell it in Quebec. In their Canadian provinces, I believe those are the only two that can sell them and can buy them. But for us, we would have to bring it in and put a new DPF system in. Did that
Mm.
answer, did that answer your question?
Absolutely. I mean, I kind of figured that would be the case anyway. But I think they're kind of gonna run into across the board if they're bringing it into some dealerships. I don't know if I've seen. You know what? I think I have seen some advertisements from maybe not dealerships, OEM dealerships, but I think I've seen like different type of secondary dealerships
Yeah.
have offered trucks here in the States for sale with the deleted DPF systems on them.
Yeah, and I think in some states, if I'm not mistaken, you can operate them. Just like in some provinces here you can, but certainly in Ontario, Canada, we cannot.
Yeah. Do
Uh,
not get caught here with it.
no, and it is illegal. So it's not. Like I say, I was kind of surprised how proud this guy was to tell me about it, um, and thought it was weird that I wouldn't buy it off him.
he he probably should have done his homework. If the truck is so damn good, why is he selling it?
Right?
It was the truck.
Yeah. So anyway, but that is, yeah, it's a no here for sure. So even when you see the auctions here, the public auctions, they cannot sell them to anybody unless they're, again, a certain states and certain provinces, and they actually announce that. So when the truck comes in that is deleted, they actually will announce this truck is, you can only bid on it from these provinces or these states and nobody else. And if somebody doesn't hear that, like if someone from Ontario here bids on it, they'll deny the bid.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, Ray, I want to help our listeners also kind of get them prepared for the buying process. What are some things that definitely will help a person that finds themselves in the market to buy a truck? What are some things that they could do before they actually come to the dealership or whatever? What are some things that they can do to make sure that they can make the process as easy as possible when it comes to buying?
I think a big part of it is education, knowing what equipment they really need and what they're going to be using it for. Especially in times like this, what I'm seeing guys do is buy stuff. We have a more general spec now than we used to have. We used to have a lot of different specs, and I think we've become more like the US as far as our neutral specs, if you will. But they need to understand what the truck is doing, where they're going to be traveling, so that they have the right gear ratios, the right tires, the right, axles, etc., and the power to accommodate wherever they're going to be pulling their trailer. So I think one, knowing where, and then of course knowing where they can have it serviced, where they can get it. Every truck's going to need service at one point or another. So I think it's good logistically to be close to, either on your route or close to your home, so that if you have to leave it for a couple days, and trust me, just about every shop you go to now, you got to leave it for a couple days.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody's really busy and short of mechanics. So, and then develop a relationship. I would go to a few different dealerships and see who you're comfortable with the most to deal with, because you want to be able to go back to that person. One, if you want to buy another vehicle. Two, if you need some assistance, or you want some, what's the word I'm looking for? Some help with the specs and understanding what your job is and what truck is good for that job. So I think comfort on who you're dealing with is a big part of it, and not being in a big rush.
Right. That's, yeah, great points. Quite often somebody, they want great big horsepower, but they don't need it.
Correct.
They're pulling auto parts. You don't need 600 horsepower to pull auto parts from Brampton to Findlay, Ohio. It's pretty flat.
Yeah.
But guys, you hear people talk and you just shake your head. All your money's going up the stack.
Well, that's bragging rights in some cases, right?
Yeah, exactly. I think people are getting. I think the new breed's a little smarter than that because everything's so expensive. There's not as much wiggle room.
Yes.
With fuel being as expensive as it is, and you've got to, your fuel consumption is your profit.
And if the person is they're looking at used trucks, how important is getting information out of the truck, as far as like ECM reports, being able to understand, the idle, how long the idle percentages on the truck, lifetime fuel averages and stuff like that. Is that information that can be derived from pulling the ECM report out of a truck, and how important is having that bit of information and everything when it comes to selecting a truck, not just going to the dealership and saying, "Hey, I like the pretty red one over there."
What's the matter with the pretty red one?
It's got 3.5 million miles on it. That's
right. You can know too much information too. I think, Rico, if you don't know what you're doing with it, but it doesn't hurt to get that information. It doesn't hurt to make sure that the truck wasn't in a wreck, and if it was, who fixed it, what was fixed, if it's been labeled or not labeled. That's always important to know too, because that affects your resale down the road as well, right? So, but yeah, certainly if you're looking at mileage, you should always look at the hours as well. There's no question. And what's really, I think we might have touched on this before. What's really interesting to me is, and Chuck, you've seen some of these trucks. I'll get 40 of a exact same truck come in from a fleet, and customers will come in and go, and they'll look at, all 40 of them. Which one's got the lowest mileage? Well, that one over there. And they'll say, okay, I want that one. There's a lot of reasons that could have the lowest mileage on it.
Right.
Been in the shop the whole time.
That's, what? That's one of them. The other thing is, it could be, I think, Rico, we talked about this earlier before the call. It could have been sitting somewhere idling to get unloaded. And,
right.
So it may have only 400,000 miles, but it's got 22,000 hours.
Yes.
And, too often customers don't look at that and don't understand the relevance of that, or the relationship to the miles versus hours. And so I always tell them, make sure you look at the truck in its entirety before just because it had the lowest hours doesn't mean it's the best truck, or lowest miles doesn't mean it's the best truck. So, but you also, people have a gut feeling when they come and look at vehicles, and they know what they like. And so you don't really want to talk them out of that either, because and try to talk them into something that you think is better, because that can backfire also, right? But they should do their homework, understand what they want, understand when they need it. Quite often we have guys that come in today, buy a truck, and expect it tomorrow.
Right.
And it's, there's a whole lot of prep that goes into that. As far as if it's a used truck that you referred to earlier, we have to do a safety test. We have to do an emissions test. We have to do, the licensing. And everywhere is really kind of slow right now. I'm embarrassed to say, but it's not just us, it's everywhere. And getting into a shop to get stuff done is quite time consuming.
If there's one positive thing, other than environmentally, of course, about the idea of electric trucks, there's a lot less components that have to go into a shop.
Absolutely. When you look at that whole electric theory, it's really counterintuitive or counterproductive for anybody that has a dealership, because dealerships make their money on parts and service.
Yeah.
And so there's
you
a
got
lot
to
less.
sell a lot of tires, windshield wipers, and headlights in order to keep the doors open.
Exactly.
So let me ask you a question. Maybe you know this. On the electric truck, if you've driven your son's Tesla, when you take your foot off the accelerator, it starts braking.
Yeah. What do they call it? Regenerative braking. Yeah,
Yes.
they do that as well.
Okay. So you don't need a brake. I know on the cars, you don't need a brake job for like 250,000 miles. Is it supposed to be the same on the large trucks?
I'm assuming so, Chuck, but I think it's still pretty early to tell. And the one thing, these are going to have a lot of weight pushing them as well. Don't forget.
Yeah, and I'm wondering how they're going to make allowance for that on long distance. When we get to that, unless we get to lighter batteries.
Mm-hmm. Well, the lighter batteries and that's the thing now. You see, if you want to buy an EV, electric vehicle, truck, the hours of drive time depend on the size of the batteries.
Right.
Which you have to take into consideration. That also affects the load that you carry.
Sure.
Because now that's taking weight away from your actual capacity, correct?
Exactly. Now, maybe they're going to change the laws. And now I don't know how, because it has
I don't think they can.
Well, no, because of our roadway, bridges and roadways and everything else.
Exactly.
Unless we start going to try to, somehow move the weight and go to Tridem trailers.
Yeah, I'm not sure on that. I think they're going to have to conform within the constraints of the 80,000 gross vehicle weight U.S. I'm not sure what it is in Canada, but I believe they're going to have to kind of conform.
Ours are 90 in most provinces, but what some provinces allow, Ontario and Quebec especially, multi-axles, and Michigan is crazy with their I forget how many axles. Yeah.
So Ray, I wanna ask this question for the listeners and everybody that's out there as well. How can, if you're starting to say that there's starting to be a little bit more inventory that's coming, you guys are starting to see a little bit more available inventory to be able to sell, for a person that is that's in the market for a truck right now, what is something that they might be able to do to help allow them to be one of the ones to be able to buy one of those scarce trucks that are out there right now? They're looking for a truck, but they just can't seem to find one or know anyone. How can they? What is there a couple of tips that you might be able to give to us to help a person maybe that's in the market, to help them secure a truck right now?
I think it's onerous, it's tedious, it's frustrating, but I think really some of the things you can do, Rico, are keep in touch with your salesperson consistently and regularly, because, as I said, I'm putting out lists of trucks coming, not that our trucks are here, coming, and we're pre-selling them. So I can tell you there was a truck today I put on the list, and I had 5 sales guys that wanted it. That when I say they wanted it, they had customers that were going to give them the deposit right there. It sold in, I don't know, 5 minutes after the list came out, and
Ray, in your years, you've been at this a long time. Have you ever seen a feeding frenzy like this last so long?
Never. That's, the COVID has done really strange things, and I don't know if it's real or not real, but it's. I think people have to be very. So they've experienced a little bit more in the States than we have here. Guys were buying trucks and didn't care what they cost because the freight rates were so high.
Yes.
And they just figured they could pay for them no matter what anyway. And if, in the last, since April, the freight rates have started to come down and the gas prices have gone up. Now they realize they can't afford those trucks anymore. So,
exactly.
Yeah, so I haven't seen anything. And I think I might have said it earlier, and if not, I'll say it now. In the United States, the auction prices from April to May have dropped 12.7%. And that was April. Pardon me?
That is substantial.
It is, and that was just April to May, and it's that's kind of across the board. There's depends on the application. Prices may not have dropped as that's just an average, but I haven't seen anything like it, Chuck. I haven't, and it's when all of this comes to fruition, there's going to be a lot of high miler trucks out there that people are going to be upside down in and going to have to try to get out of them somehow.
Well, that was my next point. It always does. This doesn't last forever. It's like a beautiful summer day in July. You better damn well prepare and get some firewood because we've got December and January and February coming.
Winter is coming.
It's always going to be like that. And, if you look at the real estate market, and Rico, I don't know your market in the US, but in Canada, in a city just west of me in Cambridge, real estate prices are down 20% from a year ago.
Yeah, and RBC says they're going to drop another 25%. I don't know if you heard that, Chuck, but
wow.
Yeah. If looking into your crystal ball, Ray, give us, do your best impersonation on the future. Would you anticipate, because of something that you just said, and so many trucks are out there that were sold at such high prices, people bought them at such high prices. Do you think that there may be another effect as far as a lot of trucks that may be coming back that may be getting repossessed, or people going bankrupt because the trucks they've paid so much for equipment that it was just really unsustainable?
Absolutely, that'll happen. It's inevitable, and it's going to happen soon. I think it's starting in the States already, and a lot of the owner operators are becoming now drivers for other companies. So it is going to happen, and I'm in pretty close contact with a few of the finance companies, and they say they're starting to see it, and come later this fall or early winter, we'll start seeing more of it.
So we could potentially had a little bubble that's starting to burst.
Well, the government's trying to influence that now a little bit, right? It's called recession,
right?
And that's going to drive a bit of that as well, right? And what Chuck mentioned about the housing market. Now, I'm not an economist by any stretch, and you guys are business guys and much smarter than I'll ever be. But I don't
know about that. You're pretty sharp cookie. Number one. Number two, the intel that you bring with you on this show has such value to our listeners and to Rico and I personally, because you're giving the play-by-play description of what's going on in the economy, because used trucks are they're the core of the economy, because that's what carries everything around.
Yeah, it is amazing. It's when you think about it and think about it. It does affect when it happens in the truck business. Not shortly after do you see it in the economy.
Of course. We are always, we're the bellwether. We're the first ones in, first ones out. Definitely the canary in the coal mine.
I love that analogy.
But yeah,
So
that's the trucking business.
So I want to bring this point up. Some people may be saying, "Man, I appreciate y'all for having Ray on, but he's way in Canada, and I'm down here in Atlanta, Georgia. How he don't do me no good to have a build a relationship or to know about a Ray Veenenan." Well, I'm here to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, I personally didn't get a chance to buy from Ray when the opportunity struck, but I know someone that did, bought from Ray up in Canada, had the truck shipped down here, and he talks to me constantly about, man, let me know if you hear from Ray, if he got anything else.
Eddie's my brother from another mother.
So
I'll tell you what, Rico. Denise and I are looking forward to a road trip one day and meeting Eddie. I think he's purchased a couple trucks from me now, and wonderful guy on the phone to talk with. And Denise, and actually when he'd call at supper time sometime, and so I'd put him on speaker, and Denise and I'd be chatting with him, and we're actually looking forward to going down and meeting him one day.
Yeah. So I'm here I just want to let everybody know that, Ray has a system in place. It's a pretty good little system if you stay in contact with them, and when the availability and stuff comes. This is what we like to try to do on this show, is we try to help build and give different toolboxes to our listeners, and Ray is another integral part of that process. It's someone that we try to pass on to our listeners, that if you're in the market, or if you're thinking about making a purchase or something like that, by all means, we don't, it helps to have relationships, and it helps to have a friend in the business. And if you mention that you heard about Ray, or you heard him on the show or something like that, I know he would definitely take care of you. Like I said, I can't speak to it on a personal level, but I do know someone personally that I referred over that has done business with Ray multiple times, other than Chuck.
Well, you know what? Between Eddie and some of our listeners and myself, we've bought a whack of trucks in the last couple of years from Ray, and they've been, and I keep in touch with everybody, and everybody likes the trucks. There's nothing without an issue, and things have to be repaired, because these things do wear out, things break down. Nobody, I'm not saying that every truck we bought has been perfect, but we haven't had any lemons.
Yeah, he absolutely loved every truck that he got from Ray. So
yeah, they're good trucks.
And with that being said, Ray, I want to give you an opportunity. We got about 8 minutes left here on the show. I want to give you an opportunity to tell everyone where they can find you, whether it be LinkedIn or anything like that, and how they can stay in contact with you. Just so when the market does turn around and inventory does become available or whatever, you got one resource that we help provide you with here that might be able to help you get a hold of a pretty good doggone truck. So with that being said, Ray, go ahead and let people know how they can get a hold of you.
Well, first of all, thank you guys for all the compliments. I appreciate that a lot. That's wonderful. But for your guys in the U.S., Rico, and remember the U.S. exchange, your dollar is much stronger than ours. So when you're coming to buy in Canada, your $50,000 or $30,000 or $100,000 is going a lot further. You're almost 130 Canadian. If you're spending $100,000, it's like buying a $130,000 vehicle here in Canada. So,
and the prices aren't jacked up accordingly. So that truck that you would buy for, let's say, $70,000 US, you may very well be able to pick it up for, for $70,000 Canadian.
Maybe even 60 Canadian.
Yes, we've seen that before too.
Yeah, that happens a lot. So, but guys, anybody can reach me. I'll give you my cell phone number first. I'll say it twice. My cell number is 416-816-5239. Again, that's 416-816-5239. If you go to Rush Truck Centers of Canada and go to our head office, which is Mississauga, and look up the people, I am in there. You can get my email address. If you want my personal email address, it's ray@Veeneman. That's V as in Victor, EENEMAN.ca, ray@Veeneman.ca. And yeah, by all means, give me a call, send me an email. I am on LinkedIn. I am on Instagram. I'm on Facebook. I'm everywhere. So by all means, even if you just want to talk, I just like talking. So if you
Well, it
want to
makes
know
you a
any,
good salesman. That's why you're so good at it.
no, I do. I'm at that age now where I just like meeting people and want to help. So if you guys just need help, and if you find a truck somewhere else and you want to know about it, call me. I'm happy to help.
Ah, great. We appreciate you taking time out of your schedule. We appreciate you coming back on, letting us cash in on that rain check. We apologize for the last food part that we had. We got this new system we're trying out. We're trying to work it out, and we're trying to do. We got faces for radio, but we said we want to try video. So,
and now I can't do this podcast from my sauna anymore, which really, because I don't have Wi-Fi out there, and nobody wants to watch me sweating out there for an hour. So, and I don't know if my laptop will take the heat out there, anyways.
Right?
yeah. But yeah,
Ray, I do need to ask you that one of the trucks behind you, the red one, that's the Anteater style, that great classic truck that
Lone Star.
The Lone Star.
The Lone Star. I forgot the name for a second. Did they stop making that, or they still make it?
I believe they're still making them, Chuck. It's funny that you say that. I believe so. Yeah.
Okay. You don't see a lot of them out there.
We just sold a nice black one to a guy in Western Ontario. I guess it was last summer. Him and his son bought it, and he says, Ray, I'm not going to drive it a lot, and I'm going to park it inside. But they have a local business, and it's black and all chromed up. And he was so proud, him and his son, to pick it up. And actually, it was kind of cool taking pictures of it with them driving out, and yeah, he's really loving it.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, I've never heard a complaint on one. Apparently, they're really comfortable.
Yeah. Yeah, his had massaging seats and the whole bit. It was a pretty nice truck. Because you need those.
That's not truck driving. That ain't trucking. We got to keep it real. We got to keep real trucking alive.
Well, there's another question I do want to ask you. Do you remember a few years ago, probably about 10 years ago now, Bose came out with truck seats?
Bose, yeah, the Bose seats.
Yes.
$5,000 seat.
Yeah. Whatever happened? Are they gone now out of that market? Or who took it over?
I don't know. I honestly don't know that, Chuck. I'm gonna have to ask the guys in the parts department about that.
Okay. Apparently they were incredible, but not a lot of people want to spend $5,000 for a truck seat.
$5,000 is a lot of money for a truck seat.
Especially when my first truck only cost me $5,500 for the whole truck.
There you go.
Well, yeah, and that was something that there'll probably be another discussion for another time. Looking at we short on time, but yeah, that used to be, getting into trucking with a cheap truck. That used to be definitely the way to start out. But man, I just want to thank you again, Ray, for taking your time out to come back and join us. Appreciate all of the information that you shared with us and that you gave us. Hopefully, I got a lot of value out of it. Hopefully, everyone else did as well. With that being said, Chuck, you wanna let the people know how they can get a hold of you, and we'll get ready to kind of wrap this baby up and put a bow on it.
Best way to get in touch with me is just send me an email, chuck@trafix.com. If I can help any of our listeners with anything, if you want to get set up with Trafix as a carrier, I'll hold your hand and introduce you to the right people, whoever you need. If you're having any issues in your business and you need a hand, I've been doing this. It'll be 48 years in October, so I know a thing or two about it. And it's just my opportunity to give back. And with that, Rico, I'll let you back in the hole for another week.
All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we want to thank you guys for taking time out to join us, whether you're listening to us live or you playing us back on a recording. We're always eternally grateful for you doing so, spending a little time with us. You could have been anywhere else in the world, but you hung out with us, and we always love that. So until the next time, stay safe out there, stay healthy, Keep it in between the mustard and the mayonnaise. God bless you and good night. We'll talk at your same time, same place next week.
Catch on the
Thanks,
flip
guys.
flop. Thanks a lot,
Good night,
guys.
man.
Take
God
care.
bless.